They found a pair of thick rubber gloves, a gas mask, 2 45-gallon metal drums, a .38 revolver and a supply of bullets, a woman's purse, and a few pieces of jewelry. Without a body for evidence, Hay now freely admitted that he'd shot Mrs. Durand Deacon and dissolved the corpse in acid. He then revealed to the detectives that he'd slit her throat and drank a cupful of her blood before putting Mrs. Durand Deacon in the drum. The government pathologist, Dr. Keith Simpson, then found Mrs. Durand Deacon's undissolved gallstones in the yard outside the storehouse. Every possible scrap of evidence was removed from the crime scene, while the press conjectured over how many other people Hay might have killed. Mrs. Durand Deacon's false teeth also turned up. The acid had failed to break down the acrylic resin. Faced with a mounting pile of evidence against him, Hay then confessed to his 4 previous murders. Hay had even boasted about drinking the blood of his victims. His trial started on July 18, 1949. It was a sensational murder case. Presiding was Sir Travers Humphreys, the country's leading criminal judge. Hay pled not guilty, convinced he would be found insane and escape the gallows. The prosecution admitted there were no bodies, but the forensic evidence presented by Dr. Keith Simpson was more than enough. The trial lasted just 2 days. The jury took less than 15 minutes to find Hay guilty, and he was sentenced to death. As he watched the judge don the black cap, Hay seemed completely indifferent to his fate. He was executed on August 10, 1949, at London's Wandsworth Prison. Before he died, Hay donated his favorite suit and tie to Madame Tussauds' famous wax museum, where his image was displayed, appropriately enough, in the Chamber of Horrors. As history readily shows, profit has always been one of the strongest motives for murder. George Smith drowned his wives to get their money. Dorothea Puente deliberately took in elderly alcoholics so she could poison them and steal what little they had. Michael Abdul Malik conned money out of his followers, then killed the 2 who were onto him. John Hay befriended people before killing them and getting rid of the bodies in a drum of acid.
Tonight on the History Channel, 500 years ago, did he foretell the American Revolution, World War II, the Cold War, the assassination of JFK? Did he even predict the Gulf War and the events of 9/11? Voyage into the future with the amazing Nostradamus. Tonight at 8 on the History Channel.
Unidentified flying objects, UFOs. They appear as sleek metallic discs in daylight skies or mysterious shapes that illuminate the night. Where do UFOs come from? What do they want? Are they merely inventions of the modern age? If so, why do they appear in early paintings? If UFOs are kites or planes or weather balloons, why do they move like nothing else from Earth? The extraordinary answers to these age-old questions, next. UFOs are now hauntingly familiar. They have shared our skies for an uneasy 50 years. Eyewitness accounts testify to their breathtaking speed, unparalleled maneuverability, and uncanny silence. They are different than any aircraft made here on Earth. These stealthy visitors are called UFOs, Unidentified Flying Objects. They have shown up unexpectedly in photographs taken all across the globe. Yet if we turn back the pages of history, there are intriguing hints that UFOs have been with us all along. Perhaps even as far back as 12,000 years ago, when our ancestors found shelter in the darkness of caves. The walls of these primitive dwellings were often painted with figures of hunters and the animals they hoped to snare. Recently, other images have come to light. These tracings were made from caves in France and Spain, and they show pictures not ordinarily associated with hunting.
Their shapes are very peculiar because they do oftentimes look like UFOs and saucers. And I'm not saying that they are UFOs or that they do represent craft of any type, only that they have a similarity to what we now perceive as maybe craft from another planet as UFOs. And one wonders where the cave people were getting the impetus for putting these on their walls. Obviously, putting paintings on cave walls was a laborious process, and you would only put down the most important things of your daily life. And here these objects appear not once, not twice, but fairly numerous times on the cave walls.
The advance of civilization brought us out of caves and into cities. Some 4,000 years ago, scribes recorded what sounds like the sighting of UFOs during the reign of a pharaoh named Thutmose III.
In the year 22 of the third month of the winter, a circle of fire appeared in the sky. After some days it became more numerous and shone with the brightness of the sun, extending to the very limits of the heavens. Royal Records of Thutmose III, 1480 BC.
A millennium later, young Alexander the Great conquered his way across the known world. In 332 BC, he laid siege to the Phoenician city of Tyre, and accounts from both sides report that shield-shaped silver objects appeared in the sky. One supposedly sent down a beam of light that destroyed the city walls. Even the Bible itself contains passages that some say refer to alien spacecraft.
I looked, and behold, a stormy wind came from the north, a great cloud with fire flashing through it, and a radiance round about it, while out of the midst of it gleamed something with a luster like that of shining metal. Ezekiel, verse 1.
There are a number of reports from the past, and I believe that some of them are quite legitimate. But one of the things is you can't interview witnesses, of course. You can't get independent witnesses. You can't ask, well, what angle was it above the horizon? The problem we have with them is we have to take them totally at face value.
It's always important in looking at these to remember that there are a lot of strange astronomical phenomena that only occur once in a while, like a star going supernova and suddenly appearing in the sky, or a comet which appeared unexpectedly. And so you always have to look at these from the point of view of astronomy. There could be some atmospheric phenomenon or an astronomical phenomenon that they were depicting as something supernatural.
As the scientific awareness of the population grew, superstition was replaced by knowledge of what was actually going on in the heavens. However, when an object would fly across the sky and stop, or hover, or seemingly descend to the ground, or maybe exhibit many different color changes or change shape or what have you, then even those people knew that they were looking at something out of the ordinary.
The residents of Nuremberg, Germany, had just such an experience on April 4th, 1561. On that day, the skies above the city filled with a chaotic array of tube-shaped objects and balls of light. Eyewitnesses called it a frightful spectacle. Chronicles of the time also report extraordinary displays over Basel, Switzerland, during the summer of 1566. These events were depicted in primitive woodcuts made by eyewitnesses. However, it was the talented master artists that have left us the most fascinating images. In 1998, an Italian writer named Daniela Giordano earned an award for her landmark study of the enigmatic flying objects depicted by Renaissance artists.
She discovered that not only did the artist have these objects in the picture, but he also had people looking at these objects and shielding their eyes, as though the people were actually noting with amazement that something unusual was in the sky. It's unknown why the object's there, but it does appear, and it looks like a UFO.
This apparently traditional religious work is known as the Madonna and Sid Giovanni. Here, too, a witness to the flying object is placed unobtrusively, yet unmistakably, in the background.
And it's very obvious that this person's attention is directed to the flying object. And the artist obviously wanted viewers of the painting to see that not only is there the Madonna in the painting, but that there's also an object in the background.
Curious airborne craft show up in other media as well. These tapestries from the 1500s depict the life of the Virgin Mary. Lurking in the background is the familiar shape of a 1950s-style UFO. This fresco from a 14th century monastery in Kosovo prominently features what appears to be a flying vehicle. On this French coin, minted in 1680, a ray of light beams down from a colossal wheel-shaped object. Sporadic sightings continue to be recorded for the next 250 years. In the 1940s, World War II pilots joined the long list of UFO eyewitnesses. Some of these pilots would later come forward to tell their stories as interest in UFOs increased after the war.
Pilots on all sides of the conflict, the Axis and the Allied pilots, reported strange objects, sometimes flying off the wingtips of their airplanes, and seemingly exhibit intelligent maneuvering. If you tried to fly the airplane toward it, the object would fly along with you and just keeping off the wing, or dive down or fly above. You couldn't catch up with it.
I talked to a pilot of a B-24 bomber during World War II, and he said one circled around their airplane. Round, smooth, sleek. They all expected to die instantly because this must be a new German secret weapon and it was going to shoot them down. Because we sure don't have anything that looks like that and flies like that.
I have one account where they actually fired out and they seemingly went through it. They didn't damage the object at all. Allied pilots thought they were secret weapons of the Germans. Germans thought they were secret weapons of the Allies, England and America, and they were even seen in the Pacific theater.
However, after the war, it became clear that neither the Allies nor the Axis had produced these super aircraft. Someone else had.
And they did exhibit maneuvering that, again, was much like the types of objects that were seen immediately after the war ended and called flying saucers at that time.
Many believe that in July of 1947, near the top-secret airbase at Roswell, New Mexico, the United States military finally got a close-up look at these mysterious spacecraft.
The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
Why go so far as to equip the 2006 Hyundai Sonata with a smoother riding double wishbone front suspension, 235 horsepower V6, and electronic stability control? Because instead of cutting corners, we'd rather take them. The highly agile 2006 Sonata, a Hyundai like you've never seen before. And now, for a limited time, the 2006 Sonata comes with up to $2,000 cash back.
Introducing Aqua Velva Ice Balm Aftershave. Alcohol-free, vitamin-infused, it firms and tones skin. New Aqua Velva Ice Balm with a fresh, clean scent. Skincare from A to V.
Emergency! There are only 3 days left to get the ultimate VCast music phone during Red Hot Deal Days at Verizon Wireless. Buy a VCast A950 by Samsung and get another one free. But hurry, offer ends Monday, only at Verizon Wireless.
Cold sufferers who take NyQuil sleep better at night, so they feel better when they wake up.
Gotcha!
NyQuil, best sleep you ever got with a cold medicine.
Are you sleepy? No. What do you think it's gonna be like? Mom says there's even more magical stuff now.
Okay, guys, back to bed.
We're too excited to sleep.
Now a family of 4 can look forward to a week-long Walt Disney World vacation for less than $1,500, including theme park tickets. Call 407-WDisney today.
You sleep?
No, too excited.
At AOL, we believe everyone should be fast. And that's why we're making it simple for our members to upgrade from dial-up to true broadband. To get AOL high-speed for as low as $25.90 a month, sign up now at AOL.com/highspeed. Want a better high-speed internet? You belong at AOL.
Whoever said good things come in threes was right. Sign up for Cox Connections and get Cox Digital Cable, real high-speed internet, and Cox Phone all in one.
Call today to find out how you can get Cox high-speed internet for just $14.95 a month with Cox Connections.
And that's 3 of a kind anyone can love. Only from Cox Communications.
I'm a carpenter.
His hands get rough as sandpaper.
Gold Bond Ultimate Moisturizing Lotion. 7 intensive moisturizers and 3 vitamins for extremely dry skin.
Now they're almost smoother than mine.
Can your lotion do that?
Gold Bond Ultimate Healing. This stuff really works. You've never seen anything like this before. Not that. This.
The Icy Hot Medicated Sleeve. Joint-hugging pain relief with medicine that goes on icy to dull the pain, then gets hot to relax it away.
The Icy Hot Sleeve. There's never been anything like it.
A History Channel exclusive.
There are things down there that have still not been seen.
There is a significant amount of risk in doing what we're doing.
Oh my God.
Right over here we got something.
Unbelievable. This is the entire bottom of the ship.
Forget what you know. Titanic's Final Moments. Sunday, February 26 at 9 on the History Channel.
You would almost think that the story has been told. It hasn't.
In the fall of 1945, American boys came home to a hard-earned welcome. They had faced unspeakable horrors. Now they would head for suburbia and get started on the baby boom. At the same time, another new era was dawning, the age of flying saucers. The enigmatic spacecraft that had appeared from time to time through the centuries would now take center stage. The age of innocence was over. The wave of modern UFO sightings began simply, with no photos, no radar returns, and no physical evidence. Just a story told by one man at the right time in history. Kenneth Arnold was a 32-year-old successful businessman on the summer day that his sighting took place. He sold firefighting equipment and flew his own light plane. On Tuesday, June 24th, 1947, Arnold was flying toward Mount Rainier above the Cascade Mountains of Washington State. The air was smooth and clear as he reached 9,200 feet and noticed a bright flash. To the left and north of Mount Rainier, Arnold saw what he described as 9 unusual aircraft flying at over 1,200 miles per hour. As they passed the mountain, the objects were outlined against the snow. They traveled in a V formation and skittered across the sky in such a way that Arnold said they resembled a saucer skipping across water. Arnold first told his story upon landing at the Yakima, Washington airport. He sketched a series of diagrams to illustrate what he had seen. What he drew was shaped like a crescent, 50 feet long. and only 3 feet thick. It had a rounded point in the rear. When seen edge on, he reported, it looked like a black line. It wasn't long before the story of Arnold's sighting startled the world. The newspapers quickly coined a name for Arnold's skipping discs. The name was flying saucers. Kenneth Arnold was soon to enjoy a celebrity status. The author of a book and the subject of magazine cover stories, he was looked upon as a combination of space-age visionary and screwball eccentric. The press would anoint him the man who started it all. In the days and weeks after Arnold's landmark flight, flying saucers became big news. Sightings were reported across the country. Indeed, at that time, more people knew about flying saucers than about the Marshall Plan for the post-war reconstruction of Europe. But one incident above all established flying saucers in the public mind. Roswell, New Mexico lies deep in the empty expanse of the American Southwest. Today, its very name conjures up memories of a supposed UFO crash and government cover-up. It is remembered as the Roswell incident. In the summer of 1947, the Army airfield in Roswell was home to the elite 509th Bomb Group. During World War II, the B-29s that carried atom bombs to Hiroshima and Nagasaki had originated here. And so would an event that gave substance to the belief in flying saucers.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Walter Haught was Public Information Officer of the 509th Bomb Group. He was the official instructed to dispatch press releases to the radio station and newspapers in Roswell. The story fed the imagination of the country, but has been the source of controversy ever since.
The press release that I received stated that we had in our possession parts of a crashed flying disc. The material was found on a ranch north of Roswell.
Then the story abruptly changed. General Roger Ramey took command of the Roswell situation and issued a new statement. It wasn't a flying disc after all.
To me, I think it was one of the slickest cover-ups by admitting that we had the material, and then a higher authority says, no, you don't.
Flying saucer or weather balloon? Both Air Force stories couldn't be true. One fact was undisputed. Something had crashed at Roswell. A rancher named Mac Brazel discovered the metallic debris in this isolated rangeland outside of town. The wreckage was strewn over more than half a mile, and Brazel alerted the base, assuming a military plane had crashed. Jesse Marcel Jr. recalls that his father, the intelligence officer at the Roswell Army Airfield, had been dispatched to the debris site to determine what had crashed there.
The night that my dad came home, he was very excited. He woke my mother and myself up and said he wanted to show us something very strange. And as I recall, he said this was parts of a flying saucer. I was 11, almost 12 at the time, and I had seen pieces of an airplane and weather balloons and things like that, but this was not like anything that I'd ever seen before. And the most intriguing portion of the debris that I recall seeing was what appeared to be I-beams. When I looked at this with the light reflecting on it, I noticed what appeared to be some symbols or writing along the inner surface of this I-beam. And the implication was this was something that came from some other planetary system.
Author Kevin Randle researched the Roswell incident and learned more about the debris Major Marcel had collected.
You have something called metal foil, been described by various people as like tin foil or lead foil. You wad it up into a ball, you drop it on the table, it unfolds itself and there's no sign of a crease.
Randall interviewed some people who say they actually handled the mysterious wreckage back in 1947.
It was all wadded up when he dropped it, and when he dropped it on the table and it hit the table, it spread out just like it was water. And so they all started holding it and playing with it, and they were trying to cut it with their knives, and they tried to burn it with their lighters, and they couldn't do any damage to it at all.
There were also rumors of a second crash site with even more stunning discoveries. Frankie Rowe's father said that the fire department was called to the scene. There he had observed nothing less than actual extraterrestrial beings.
They'd gotten a call on what they thought was a plane crash about 30 miles north of Roswell. And when they got out there, it was not an airplane. He said it was a flying saucer that had crashed. And there were little, what he called little people. And he said one of them was still alive. That there were two that were covered up laying on the ground. And he said they had been covered up, it looked like with body bags. And the one that was walking around there didn't appear to be hurt.
Through his research, Kevin Randle has established what he believes happened next.
According to a number of the eyewitnesses, the craft and the bodies were taken to Hangar 84 at the Roswell Army Airfield, where they were held for a period of time before the various flights were initiated and sent out of Roswell.
Randle believes that crates containing the alien bodies and flying saucer wreckage were shipped out of the heavily guarded Hangar 84, never to be seen again. When the Air Force produced one meager weather balloon at the Roswell crash debris, many concluded it was part of a cover-up.
In the 50s, there was the belief that the U.S. Air Force had proof of some sort that these were alien spaceships and was covering it up to prevent panic.
There obviously was a cover-up of this accident, because years later my dad said he was actually part of the cover-up because he went along with the weather balloon story.
Indeed, according to Marcel, his father revealed that he had been ordered to pose with wreckage from a weather balloon.
My dad explained to my mother that this was a non-event. Don't even discuss it with your friends. Don't talk about it. I was a true Air Force brat. I believed in following the orders, you know. He didn't want me to talk about it, so we did not talk about it.
These people were visited by military authorities. They were told to keep quiet.
Frankie Rowe recalls such a visit from a man in a uniform.
He started getting louder, and he kept saying, "Don't you understand? You did not see anything." And he had a nightstick type of thing with him that was kind of hanging on his belt. And he took that out, and he got very loud, and he started talking, and every time he would make a point, he would hit his hand with the nightstick. So he would say, "You didn't see anything, you were not there." And he said, "If you ever say one word about this the rest of your life, we will split up this family. If that's not enough," he said, "you know, this is a big desert out here. We can take you out in the desert." And he said, "No one will ever find your bodies."
If this disturbing account is true, it can only be described as a death threat, a warning to remain silent about the Roswell incident. What was so vital to protect? In January of 1948, the Air Force would launch an investigation into the escalating flood of UFO reports.
Designed for the extraordinary. The Range Rover Sport by Land Rover.
Our taxes are done. Our taxes are done.
What? Shouldn't we go to one of those tax stores?
TurboTax asks me questions just like H&R Block does. Then it puts the answers on all the right forms.
But the tax guy checks it.
TurboTax checks for errors.